Welcome to Tribe Triathlon, the podcast for athletes who don't just train and race, they belong. Whether you're chasing a new PR, dialing in your race day, or just love all things triathlon, you're in the right place. Each episode provides actionable insights to improve your next training session or race. My name is John Mayfield, and I am a seasoned triathlon coach with years of experience guiding hundreds of athletes from their first long course event all the way to World Championship qualifications. So rack your bike, lace up your shoes, and let's get ready to train smarter, race stronger, and thrive within the tribe. This is Tribe Triathlon. Hey guys, welcome to another Tribe Triathlon podcast. We have got a good one today. I am super excited to be outsourcing this topic. As I've said before, I know a lot of things about triathlon, but there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. And I'm very fortunate to know a lot of really great, really smart, really well-educated people that can really speak to some of these issues. So our guest today runs a sports psychology practice called Maximize the Mind out of my former hometown of Houston, Texas. But she works with athletes across the country. She goes by mental performance coach, mental skills coach, sports psychology practitioner, mental conditioning trainer, wife, mom, and Ironman triathlete. She has 2 master's degrees and multiple certifications in sports psychology. Welcome, Ashley Eckermann.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Again, super excited. Appreciate your time. So as we get started here, your husband, Chad, he's quite the tequilier. Do you share his affinity for fine tequilas?
Yeah, is that a real word? Tequila? I like it.
I don't know.
Did you make
Maybe.
it up?
I didn't make it up, but I don't know. Obviously, it's kind of a take on sommelier. But for we tequila aficionados.
Okay, yeah, he would probably be ashamed of my comment then. No, I am not the tequila connoisseur at all. That all started, though, I will tell you, because beer and everything else that we used to drink after every single race, because, that's why you race sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
You just got so sick and so bloated and so full. Mm-hmm. And so he started sipping on higher end tequila because he's like, I don't even feel bad the next day. Yeah. And you don't even gain any weight. And this is genius. And why didn't we start this 20 years ago? Mm-hmm. So that's now why we have 987 fine tequila bottles in our house. But I need the margarita. Yeah. I cannot just have the tequila straight. Okay. I'm not fancy enough. Okay. I need the mix. I need the fun.
Yeah. So he posts on social a couple times a week, and he's either got my favorites or I know it's something that I need to add to my collection. So, bourbon is big now, but it's kind of fun to find somebody that shares my affinity for the tequilas, and also that's been great.
Yeah, right, he loves them.
So moving on to today's diving in, Ironman recently released their top 25 of 2025. I'm not going to hit them all, but I do want to just mention a few of the highlights from 2025 in the world of Ironman. There were 3 new races. We talked about this on a previous episode, but we had new races in Rockford, and then the return to Boise and Ottawa. 70.3 races had several anniversaries. Hawaii celebrated its 20th anniversary and still is the only Kona qualifier on this side of the world. I think there may be a few in Asia, but still Hawaii is still the only Kona qualifier, and I know there's some extra slots for the Hawaii residents. Augusta, 15 years, Chattanooga, 10 years, Santa Cruz, 10 years, and Oregon, 5. So a lot of great races there, with hopefully lots of years to come on those. Had an 80-year-old female finish in Kona. Quite the accomplishment there. And it was close. It was 1650 or something like that. So she took full advantage of all the time allotted to her. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Christian Blumenfeld finished Ironman Texas in a record time of 7:24. That's a lot of folks' bike split, let alone you add the swim and the marathon in there. So another list that was recently released, we'll talk about this, were some of the fastest and slowest courses of 2025. So Texas did make the list, but not maybe where you think. There were 40,000 first-timers, including 10,000 first-time full-distance finishers. So that's awesome. 10,000 new Ironman have joined our ranks. So I'm assuming that means 30,000 new 70.3 athletes. So that's great for our sport. So super excited to see that. Along with that, the average age dropped from 41 to 39. Now that's just a 2-year adjustment, but think about all these athletes. We had 40,000 new ones and obviously a whole lot of veterans in there. So to move the needle that much, I think that actually is a trend worth paying attention to. And I noticed this. I saw this at a lot of the award ceremonies this year. Usually that 25 to 29 age group is largely forgotten. Sometimes it's like single digits in there, but there were several races where it actually was the largest age group. Typically that's reserved for somewhere in the 40s, somewhere between like 35 and 50 tends to be the largest age groups in there. Yeah, it's where I've been stuck for the past 15 years and never making my way to the top. But yeah, interesting to see that 25 to 29 was the largest age group. And there were 47 18-year-olds that finished Ironman races this year. So I know at 18 years old, I was not at all thinking about Ironman or anything like Ironman. I was a football player and lots of other stuff that didn't involve swimming, cycling, or running. So super cool that and huge props, 47 18-year-olds joining us as Ironman finishers. So
I have to tell you something real quick on that. So I have a ton of athletes that come see me, like high school collegiate athletes for their respective sport. But what's happening, because I'm noticing like the younger trend as well, they're retiring from their sport, and some of them are like injury, medical retirement, and some of them are just out of eligibility. But they are getting in a triathlon and they have never swam before, never owned a bike. I mean, beside the bike you got from Santa when you were a kid. And they are like, I want to do a triathlon. I'm like, you got to learn a lot. And it's like in 2 months and there's, huge learning curve, but they miss being competitive. Yeah. And they're like, I need something, because they went from just like, literally that was their entire identity to now what am I supposed to do? And I need some type of sport. And so I'm having a lot of younger kids come see me and like work through that. They never, ever, I don't think, would have done it. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, absolutely. So they've had their second or third Tommy John surgery and throwing curveballs their whole life and need to. I literally just had a softball pitcher do Ironman Texas for the first time this year. And I had a baseball second baseman do, California. Nice. Yeah, isn't that cool? Like kids. Yeah. I mean, I know anyone's younger than me, they're a kid, but... So Ashley actually sent me an athlete to coach 2 years or so ago. He was racing a world championship in Nice. He was a college student, Colin, and he absolutely crushed it. So proud of him. Went out there and climbed up that mountain like it was nothing. And I actually ran into him just a couple weeks ago at Clash Daytona. He was there racing with his whole family. So it was super cool to run into him. Kind of worlds colliding there. It was great to see him. As a swimmer, and that's all he had ever done. And his dad had done a few triathlons. And he's like, hey, I'm curious. And I was like, okay, well, go do one and see if you get as addicted as the rest of us before you buy all the gear. And he was like, this is awesome. And that was really cool. And meanwhile, he just graduated from Georgia Tech. Yeah. And when I was coaching him, he was maintaining a 4.0. I assume he probably finished with that. So so not only is he training for Ironman World Championship, he's still maintaining a 4.0 in engineering, I think something. Yeah. Oh something, He's super smart. Yeah. So super cool. So to make time for that, like that to me, when people talk about like the amount of money that we spend in sports, I mean, yes, it is ridiculous, but at the same time, we all know sports teaches you time management, organization, how to prioritize, how to get along with people that are annoying. You know what I mean? Like, and he did all that. So I'm like, those are life skills, bud. That's not just, hey, you learned to race. You learned to do something while also maintaining all your grades. I just think it's cool. Yeah. So shout out to Colin. With that, Ashley, tell us about your athletic background and your triathlon story. So I grew up a swimmer and I had never run more than a mile because your dry land training when you were a kid was burpees and squat jumps. We didn't have weight rooms that you did or that you have now, like back in the day, because I grew up swimming in the 90s. And I love swimming, and I know there's masters swim, but it really didn't do much for me. And so I got into triathlon when I was bored. And I was like, I want to not forget what my athletes feel like. Like one of my goals in always continuing to race, because I don't chase PRs all the time now. I don't have the time to train. So for me, it's like, I don't want to forget what it's like to throw up before you swim. I don't want to forget what it's like to panic in open water. I don't want to forget what it's like to get tense, even though you know it's for fun. And, that's why I still race. And then it just makes it easy to relate to anybody that's, in there and feeling it. But I wanted to do something to stay competitive. Like same reason, like the college athletes are retiring and picking up a new sport. I had to learn how to ride a bike all over again. And my husband teased me, since you mentioned him earlier, he grew up racing BMX and mountain bikes and is extremely athletic. So I was like, I need to ride a bike with skinny wheels. And he literally took me to a high school parking lot because I had not ridden a bike in so long. Yeah. And I had to practice learning balance again. And it was very humbling, but we all got to start somewhere. And I was determined to like do something that was not like grow old and sit and do nothing and go, oh, my time has passed. No, everything is whatever you make of it. So I started racing. I think my first one was 2007 or 2008, somewhere around there. And then I started doing marathons, and I just was like, turns out I kind of like running. Who would have thought?
Yeah. Very cool. So what would you say?
And now I think I've done almost 50 marathons.
Oh, wow.
Or over. I've done 8 full Ironmans, and I don't even know 70.3s. I don't know how many I've done.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's kind of crazy. We get obsessed, and then you have missions and you have new goals and you have things that you're like, well, now there's an excuse to travel to this city because they have a race.
Yeah. So of your 8 Ironman and your 50 plus marathons and your lost count 70.3s, what would you say is your favorite memory, favorite experience from your triathlon journey?
Okay, you're going to think this is banana pants, but I have to. Okay, so since I told you the skinny bike thing, and everyone on the internet that's listening to this can judge me for that, because I hope I made you laugh. The very first race I did, it was just a sprint try, and I did it. Like, obviously growing up a swimmer, I killed the swim. I think I was one of the first people out of the water in the swim. So, you come and you're all like, yeah, I'm a badass. And then I did it on a mountain bike. Quite humbling, because I just wanted to let's just do it. Let's see if I like this. Let's see if I would return to it. And, everybody's flying past me. And I'm like, oh my God, this sucks. And so, that was the point where I vowed to be like, I am getting a real bike. And it wasn't like a huffy, bad bike. It was like a good bike, but it was a mountain bike and the tires were fat and it wasn't good. And I worked my ass off to just, finish. And I remember having to walk a ton on the run because I was just so exhausted. And I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. Cause this is fun, but it's torturous. And then I'm just one of those people that's really, really determined to, better whatever I started, however I started. Yeah. And that was one of my I think if I had the right equipment, I could enjoy this more. I know in a lot of sports, I don't think you can justify all the equipment as much as what people spend. Fully triathlon, that's not true. You can totally get faster with lots of good equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'd have to say my favorite Ironman was probably the first one I did. I did Ironman Texas was my first one because obviously being from here, it was close. And it was, I'll tell you this because I think this will probably just really resonate with a lot of your people. When you haven't done that distance before, you're scared. And when you're scared, you will train, you will work hard because it's I don't know if I can finish that. And that's really hard. And I've never done anything that hard in my whole life. And after you do a few, you're not scared anymore. And, that's good and bad. Everybody always says you don't want to be afraid. And I wish I didn't feel like I was going to throw up before a race. And I'm like, no, sometimes that's good. Sometimes that keeps you humble. But I don't really even remember the swim, but I, did the bike. I got to about 90, 95 miles, somewhere around there. And I got hit by a car.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure you're like, why are you telling me that this is your favorite one? But I will tell you why. he took out, it was like a guy, there was it was like an intersection, and there was a cop directing people. And, we had cars are all frustrated because everybody hates to stop for a race, and everyone hates a cyclist. So they're all lined up, and he's like directing guys to go one at a time. And people get impatient. And so I think I was with like 4 or 5 other cyclists, and this car like swerved out of the lane. And so it's not like he hit us fast, but he was trying to like dart around the cop. And so he took out like 4 or 5 of us.
Wow.
And I went down. I was only down for like a minute. And I got up, and the cop's like running over there trying to obviously like, I don't know, do a police report, write a ticket. I don't know what he was going to do. But I got up and I got on my bike, and he's like, miss, ma'am, I don't know, whatever he was calling me. He's like, you need to get checked out. And I'm all cut up. And I'm like, no. Because if I process this, if I digest this, if I think about this for 2 seconds, I'm not getting back on this bike. I'm going to be freaked out. I'm never going to do this again. And it was my first one. I was like, you are not taking my day from me, motherfucker. I mean, I was just like, you are not ruining this for me. I trained way too long for this sucker. It was way too expensive. So I get on, and I just start pedaling. And man, I'm telling you what, that adrenaline kicks in, and I am in mega pain. And I'm telling you, the bruising and the just way worse than the Ironman pain.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I had left, 10, 15 miles or something. It went a lot. And I am just like, do not stop, because I just knew the fear would take over. So anyway, we pull in, and, it's my first one. So my whole family's got matching shirts, because I had those made.
Of course.
So I can see all of them in neon yellow, and they're all cheering. And I think back now, and I should have never said this because should have just waited to the end. But I was like, I got hit by a car. And I got back on my bike, and here I am. And they were like, oh my God. And yeah, so I made all of them panic. And then I remember going around the corner, and you know how they have like right before you get to like the change tent, or like, they got medical tent. It's like I'd racked my bike, but I hadn't gone in and changed yet. And so I saw one of my buddies is a chiropractor, and he was like working for Ironman that day, like doing like medical tent or volunteer or something. And I was like, hey, I got hit by a car, and it hurts really bad, and I have to finish. Like, help me. He literally like laid me down in the grass right there, and was like, I don't know, popping my hips and pulling my back and stretching me out. And it allowed me to finish. And I just remember being like, nothing is going to like just take that away from me. Like I'm going to find a way to be resilient. And that's kind of like my theme with the athletes I work with is figure it out. You don't have to be the best. That's not ever the goal. At some point, everybody's talented, and you age and things get slower. So what? But like figure out how you can be the best version of you on any given day. And so I finally start running, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do it. Cause I got hit by a car. And then I don't know, it was like an hour or 2 into it. And this was in 2016. And I don't know if you remember that, but that's when it hailed. I don't know if you raced it or you were there watching.
I was there. I wasn't racing, but yeah, everyone remembers that one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it was awful. So like, okay, it's hailing, but I was in the woods back where like, over by like Lake Woodlands. And so I didn't have to stop because, they were pulling people from the course and putting them in parking garages and saying, we got to wait this out for safety issues, lightning. And the hail was like freaking golf ball size. And they were pulling people, but I was back by myself. And anyway, the welts on my back from the hail, because I had no cover, was so painful. And I had to laugh because I was like, are you flipping kidding me? What? And in Houston, Texas, that just doesn't happen. Like you don't have hail. We don't have thunderstorms coming out of nowhere. And I don't even know how the water like pulled as fast as it did, but it was up to my knees. Yeah. And I was just like, is this what we're doing? Is this it? I'm not supposed to finish this. This is God's plan. I don't know. And I'm just like, I am not quitting. I don't care. I am being ultimately tested. And it was funny. I don't think in the moment, but it was funny at the end because it stopped and I was like, oh my God, I'm really going to finish this thing. This is just awesome. And I just remember like the experience being like legendary. Yeah. And even though it was like sad, it actually ended up being my fastest time because I think it was just, I got to get off this course no matter what, that no pain was going to like slow me down. I wasn't walking. I was like, and how? I have not ever been able to do as good as I did in that one. So I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's Yeah, and props for being a 2016 finisher. That is a legendary event. It's like the apocalypse came and went, and then not only was it pouring down, absolutely pouring down, like you said, it was flooding instantly, hail, and then like 5 minutes later, it was back to being like 90 degrees. So it wasn't like a nice cool front came in and it was easy to run after that. No, the sun came out and went back to typical Houston weather of like 100% humidity and 95 degrees. So yeah, that was a day. So, and again, I was just there on the side and it was hard enough for me, but yeah, that was quite the day. So well done between the crash and the weather and everything else that got thrown at you. So when I think about mental performance in sports, one of the first things that comes to mind for me, and probably the first time I heard about really focusing on the mental side of sport was back pre-triathlon. I was a big golfer, and this was back when Tiger Woods was dominating everything. And he was one of the ones that was really the first that I was aware of working with a sports psychologist. And golf is so mental. It's one stroke after another. If you make a bad shot, you've got to be able to shake it off. If not, if you make a bad shot on the first hole and you can't shake it off, you're done. If you miss a putt, you're done. You have to be able to recover from that. And Tiger did that better than anyone. Not only did he shake off the bad shots, I heard him say one time he allowed himself to be mad for 10 seconds, and then it was done. Then he moved on to the next shot. And he had such a dominance over his competition. I heard something, it was wild. Like if you played with Tiger on Sunday, it was like getting a 2-stroke penalty. Like you were going to shoot 2 strokes over your norm simply because of who you were playing with. He had that much of a dominant presence, and it really came down to his mental focus. So obviously for Tiger, the mental aspect of the sport had a huge impact. So tell us a little about what is mental performance coaching?
Yeah, and I grew up watching him. My dad actually played on the senior PGA Tour. He was a professional caddy, and that is how I got into sports psychology.
Wow.
Because I watched my dad.
I saw today that Tiger is now eligible for the senior tour. So we're dating ourselves here. Yeah.
Doesn't that make you feel old? You have to be 50 to play on the tour.
Yeah, today's his 50th birthday.
Okay, wow. Dang. Yeah, so my dad just dealt with a lot of anger management, and he would be really good, and then he would get frustrated, with a bad shot. And so I tell people a lot of times they think it's about confidence, but some of the athletes that we work with are actually very confident, and it's just managing emotions, right? So mental performance coaching is basically like strength training for your brain. But I don't do the cheesy quotes, I don't do affirmations, and I don't do toxic positivity. And people are usually shocked when I say that. And I just think, honestly, you're not going to repeat anything that you don't believe. So why would we ever tell people to be more positive? Everybody rolls their eyes. And then when they come work with someone like me, they go, oh my God, you're nothing like what I thought. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not giving you what's on TV and what you have been like brainwashed to think. So we're using sports psychology concepts, but I just like the mental performance coaching title better because it's more appealing to athletes. And a lot of times I think this just is the stigma that we've all, grown up with, but it was like psychology means you're crazy. And it's like, no, it's literally just your competitive edge, y'all. And so we're helping athletes be calmer. We're helping them handle nerves, get out of their head. We work with youth through professionals. But the thing that I think a lot of people don't think of is they think of sports psych as something has to be wrong with you. And in reality, it's how do you focus on yourself and not what other people are doing? And how do you compare less? How do you get past injuries? How do you overcome, being defined by a certain coach's comment? How do you be more aggressive instead of holding back and hesitate? How do you learn how to focus? How do you get comfortable being uncomfortable? How do you move on from bad races faster without letting one performance just, sting you and define you? So we're way bigger than just believe in yourself. That is not really my jam. And to be honest with you, if that worked, nobody would need us, right? But we're just teaching athletes how to perform like they've practiced and just not have obstacles and adversity and challenges that we're going to face in life, no matter what, not have that be like, okay, well, see, now I can't. No, I'm not going to make it. So that's what we do.
Okay. So it's almost like going to the chiropractor or the PT prior to the injury so that you don't have to go in. So it's kind of a proactive opportunity for improvement as opposed to having to go in and fix something after the fact. Is that an accurate comparison?
That is absolutely accurate. I wish more people thought like that. Because I could be so much more effective if you let me teach you strategies to concentrate on what you want to achieve. But yes, most people come in crisis mode and they're like, hey, I got playoffs next week. Hey, I have a race next week and I'm worried about getting hurt. I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do, because they wait for the, I don't know, open water anxiety or the stress fracture to get so bad. And then they go, okay, I can't handle it anymore. I think I need professional help. And yes, that's true. But you could have been so much better off before it became this like habit that you reinforced over and over again.
Yeah. So
yes, we do both, but the majority of people come when something hits the fan. How about that?
Yeah. And I always try to encourage the athletes I work with to stay ahead of anything, whether it be an injury, an illness, anything like that. It's let's deal with it while it's minor, because we don't want it to become major. When it's a little scratchy throat, let's give that the attention that it needs, so that doesn't become a full on infection. Or if you have a little niggle in your shin, let's make sure that doesn't become full-blown shin splints or stress fracture kind of a thing. So and so it sounds like it's saying kind of the same thing. Let's prepare and do some work up front and kind of strengthen these muscles, as opposed to having to come in, like you said, in crisis mode when things have not gone to plan and we've not lived up to performance standards and expectations.
Yeah, and that would be so smart. But you know as well as I do, so many athletes are like, okay, something has to give in my training schedule, so I'm going to let strength training go. And I get it, because I've made that mistake too. But then that's how you get hurt. Because the older you are, you need those glutes to be strengthened to actually keep your knees and your Achilles protected. And we just are like, it doesn't matter until I'm hurt. But it's like, if you do that, you're going to actually stay injury free. So I think you have to suffer before you realize you could have benefited, right? And that what has to happen in society?
That's often the case. Unfortunately, we're kind of slow to learn that, but hopefully once we experience it, we learn it. I know it's certainly been the case. For me, a lot of that advice comes from my own personal experience and wishing I could have gone back and, given that little bit of pain, more attention, as opposed to just, gutting up and pushing through. So what would you say, you've mentioned a few, but what would you say are some common mental struggles that triathletes face?
I would have to say fear of failure and just fear of success. And people will use those interchangeably, but it's really just about not trusting their body, not trusting their training. It'll be like, oh, I've never done this distance before. It'll be like, well, I am not a real runner. They'll make comments about things that's their weakest discipline, and they won't believe that they're capable of something because it's not something maybe they have more experience in or they haven't grown up doing. But that's just like anything. You start a new job, you got to figure it out. You're not going to know everything at the beginning. Overthinking, performance anxiety, nerves, fear of disappointment. And a lot of times as an adult, it's not necessarily fear of disappointing a coach or a parent, like we see in a lot of our teen athletes. An adult will be like fear of disappointing themselves, or did I do all this training for nothing? And I didn't meet my goal. So now was that race meaningful or valuable? They'll just second guess ability. They have a hard time pushing through pain. And well, I guess I should also say, like, knowing when to recognize, is it real pain or is it, is it fatigue? Am I, should I pay attention to this and that kind of stuff? That's what we see mostly from triathletes.
Yeah. So kind of along that same line there, a lot of these things that we encounter are sometimes fear-based or what is risk, what is danger. So like an open water swim, obviously there's a perception and a reality that is a dangerous situation. or perhaps it's pain that is this just something I'm experiencing, or is this an injury coming on? So what exactly is happening in the brain versus the body, and how do we navigate those in real time when we're in the race, jumping in the water, we have those nerves, we maybe feel a panic attack coming on. What's happening and how do we deal with that?
I think the biggest thing is how you label it and how much energy you give to it. So one of the biggest misconceptions in endurance sports in general, so this is running, triathlon, cycling, doesn't matter, but that pain automatically means danger. And y'all, pain is just data. Pain is just information. Okay. And the brain decides what that information means. So your body is always capable of doing more, and your brain is the one that kicks in and goes, oh, but I'm not sure if you can, right? And so the pain that we feel is happening in a memory. So, oh, this was embarrassing. This is where I failed. This is where I DNF'd. This is the course that I got injured on. And then we will hold back, and the brain is constantly taking that data from past memories and it's predicting. So like I said, last time I did this, I bonked. Last time I do this, I, blew up. Right. And so it's like sending this warning signal to protect you. It's just protecting your ego. Physically, your body is capable. Neurologically, your brain is saying, let's not find out. Let's not push. Right. And so discomfort feels urgent a lot of times when nothing is actually wrong. So I'll teach athletes hey, I'm not asking you to totally ignore your body. If it's a sharp escalating pain, do you need to change your mechanics? Do you need to pay attention to something? Or is this more about fatigue and effort and you second guessing if you can sustain this or hold on to this pace? And most endurance athletes will not stop because their body physically failed.
Yeah.
I have DNF 2 races my entire life. One of them, I broke my foot in the middle of them, and the other one, I broke a hip. And so it's now I'm not saying, oh my God, I'm this amazing tough person, but it has to be pretty bad for me to stop. But for the most part, we will listen to the excuses, and nobody likes to be the problem, but in reality, that's just how it is. And we will look for something to blame. And so we're looking for this reason why we can't go on, because your brain labeled something as a threat. And really it's just it is hard. And the goal is not, again, to ignore the pain. Okay. It's to stop overreacting to it and then learn, okay, pain is a message versus noise in the background, and knowing that my brain's job is to always hold me back and be ooh, don't embarrass yourself. Don't take risk. And then my job as an athlete is to always counteract that and go, but here's why I can. And ultimately just not believe everything you think. Of course, you're going to have queasy stomach. Of course, your heart is about to beat out of your chest before you run into the water with 2,000 athletes. Duh, that's not really shocking. But your job is to go, but do I believe that? Because that's what most people do. They're oh my God, my gut feeling is to not run into the water right now. So I think I can't do it. No, that's an interpretation. Take that feedback and go, okay, my heart's racing. I'm going to do some exercises to lower my heart rate, to regulate my nervous system, to reset my attention. And that's what we teach athletes to do. And then I'm not going to interpret that those symptoms mean I am actually having a heart attack. And we will escalate them. And then what actually ends up happening when we give it so much attention is it really does amplify the symptoms. And then they do get bad. And you're no, I think I really am. And I'm well, because you decided to give more meaning to those symptoms than you should have.
Yeah. So as we experience these setbacks, these injuries and these types of things, as you mentioned, our brain sets a governor. It doesn't allow us to go past a certain point because there's a fear of re-injury or perhaps a new injury. What are some strategies and ways to overcome that, to basically, I guess, maybe convince yourself that you are okay and it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get injured again or you're going to experience failure again?
Right. So there are a couple things that we do. We run athletes through recoding memories that are associated with bad experiences. That could have been getting chewed out, getting yelled at when you were 13 years old. That could have been rolling your ankle. That could have been pulling from a team. That could have been not finishing a race. And then the other thing we'll do is we will reprogram their subconscious. And really, it just means kind of dissecting what you're holding on to that are creating limiting beliefs. So I will say this because I think this is really important to understand, because I probably just mumbled a bunch of scientific words that people are like, what? Okay. After let's just say you get surgery for something, you tear your ACL, let's just basic, right? And you got it, after it's healed, or actually, you know what, I'll back up. After it's repaired, you go to PT. And the PT is to build up the strength around it, to get the flexibility going, to get the elasticity going, and to make sure that you get your extension back, okay? But physical rehab does not automatically rebuild trust in your body. It rebuilds tissues, okay? But the brain is still running on this like safety, but I remember what happened, and so I'm going to resort back to that. You will always hold on to the last memory if you don't reprogram it. So after an injury, an athlete will be like, okay, well, I'm fine, or I'm healed, or whatever, but your nervous system is like, no, you're not. And so the brain just remembers everything that went wrong. And like you said, it's this invisible governor, and it's like a limiter that's going to be like, you should hesitate. You should probably baby that injured area. Ooh, also overcompensate with your good side. And then let's see if that hip goes out. Or also feel extra anxious because you're probably going to die. Do you know how many people get hit on bikes on roads? Don't ride on the road. And, you know, it's like maybe you weren't ever even hit, but your friend was hit. And so now you're like, well, I can't ride on the road. And I do know it has gotten way more dangerous than it was back in the day. And that's a whole other conversation. But we will take things that we have stored, and then what we'll do is we'll protect ourselves. Right. And so when we're that cautious because we're like, well, I don't want to hurt my other knee, so I'm going to lean more to the right, or I'm going to change my gait. What ends up happening is you actually increase injury because your movement now becomes guarded, and you literally will shorten your stride. So you're no longer fluid. And then that's why doctors will send athletes to us after surgery, and they'll be like, yeah, they're healed. But we're all well aware that you've got to retrain like your brain. You got to retrain your safety system, because otherwise, you're holding on to those old memories, and you might be cleared, but you're like, I just don't feel like myself. Like something's off, and people can't quite like pinpoint it. And we're wanting you to get back to being assertive. We're wanting you to get back to being decisive. And so just doing several exercises to kind of recode the intensity that those injuries are stored at, that makes such a huge difference with athletes that we see.
So say I set out to PR a race, that didn't happen. Or like in my case, my last race was a DNF. It was my first ever in a long course event. So, and again, that was my one and only race of 2025. So I've been sitting on that for whatever that 8 or 9 months now. So yeah, I mean, I didn't achieve what I wanted to. So obviously there's a component of failure there. But how do you help athletes redefine success without lowering standards or watering down competitiveness?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people have a misconception about sports psychology in the sense of like, well, it's going to make me soft, or I don't want to lower my standards. I know that you're telling me I'm too much of a perfectionist, but I don't want to settle. I don't want to not care. And I'm like, I'm not asking you not to care, you knucklehead. I'm asking you to care more strategically. Because here's the thing, PRs are all about outcomes. They are absolutely influenced by weather, the course, pacing errors, nutrition, fueling errors, your timing. You could literally do everything right. You and I both know we've raced enough and still not be PR worthy.
Get hit by a car and then get hailed on.
Yeah. So it's like, you can't only then define success by a time. You can't be like, oh, well, that race was good because I PR'd. Because then what happens is everything becomes motivation based, and motivation becomes way too fragile. And so what we want to do is kind of like separate your standards from like, it's going to sound cheesy, but like from the scoreboard. Okay. And so I want your standards to be high. I want you to be competitive. I care about winning. I am not in the camp of everyone should get a trophy. Now, I do know that everyone gets a medal in an Ironman, but that's okay because you did an Ironman. But anyway, I think you need to evaluate, did you execute your race plan? Did you push when things got hard? Did you do better at what you were focusing on? Did you finish stronger than you thought you could? Did you stay engaged when you wanted to quit? Did you, keep your nutrition plan? Because God, I will be celebrating forever the day I remember to eat all the times I'm supposed to freaking eat.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, I think sometimes we got to just reevaluate that we're putting all this like emphasis on PRs and the time that we, set our goal for, whatever, and make it about execution and not just like the proof of time kind of thing, because otherwise we'll label it bad. And then what happens once you are like, oh, that was a bad race, you will tighten up. The next time you were at a race that your brain is pulling is similar, you will play it safe. And then ironically, less likely to PR, And so the goal is not really like not to have one or not to have a goal. Again, I want you to be competitive. It's to stop letting the number be the only thing that you measure, because to me, I just think if I put everything in that, then everything becomes frustrating afterwards. And, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Not all parts are fun. You and I both know it's hard, but there's still supposed to be things that are fun.
So a little bit of a side note here. I think PRs should come with like a qualification, and they almost expire. Like we have a new age group every 5 years. So I kind of feel like we need a age group a PR per age group. Because I was 29 when I raced my first Ironman. I'm now 46. So, it's not exactly fair. Even though I have actually, my PR was like 2 or 3 years ago. So I was like 43. Okay. So not too bad. But yeah, it's like, it's very difficult for me at 46 to be racing my 29-year-old self, even though I've obviously learned a whole lot. I've done a whole lot of training since then. 29-year-old me definitely had some physiological advantages. So I think, especially with those of us who've been racing for multiple age groups, I think, again, those PRs need a expiration date. And so you kind of start over, and it's like your first time in an age group. My 35 to 39 PR was X, and my 40 to 44 PR was Y. So I think so, but on that. So something that I run into a lot as a coach is working with athletes that absolutely destroy their training. They go out, they crush it, they train consistently. They successfully execute the sessions as they're prescribed. They make gains. They build stamina, and they show up at that start line with an amazing amount of potential. But then they just have a really difficult time translating all of that training into race execution and those results. What goes into that, and how can we counter that experience?
Yeah, this is so hard to watch anybody go through for anybody that's a coach, but it is really probably the most common thing that we see in our practice, because what I want to say is a lot of kids, a lot of adults, I don't care if you're a junior high, high school, collegiate, weekend warrior, practice doesn't transfer to competition because of nerves. Right. And we just don't realize how much they're affecting us. And it's just rarely a fitness issue. And training and racing, they activate different brain states. And so in training, that's why they're killing it and hitting these great intervals and like a workout, because there's no judgment, there's no clock pressure, there's no consequences. You don't back off. You're literally fluid, you're smooth, so effort can flow. And then on race day, the brain is like, oh my God, I got to protect you because you said this was scary, and you said you have to finish, and you said you have to PR. And so now the brain doesn't get that you're just venting to your friend while you're standing there waiting to go. And it's taking everything that you say so literally. And so now there's expectations, and there's fear of blowing up, and there's fear of disappointing myself. And the nervous system prioritizes protection over performance. So even though you are flipping capable, the brain is like pumping the brakes. Yeah. And so now it's like you're playing it safe. You can't access that same physical talent. So what a lot of people don't realize is, our thoughts determine how we execute our talent. And you'll just be like, oh man, I was just joking. Well, but you said it. And whatever you said determines how you access your training, how you access your physical ability. You didn't lose it, because that's what people love to say. They'll be like, I don't know what happened. I just lost it all in race day. I just forgot how to do everything. I forgot how to swim. I'm like, no, you didn't. Yeah. But you couldn't access that ease of motion because you were so fixated on protecting yourself. And again, unconsciously, but like, what could go wrong? And so I hate the advice that people say like, well, you just didn't want it bad enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is ridiculous. So it isn't about wanting it more. It's about training the brain to perform under a perceived threat and like not being surprised by the threat. So it's like desensitizing the brain to stress and how you handle discomfort, and being very like task-based versus like outcome-based. So then the brain can actually learn, okay, stress isn't always dangerous. Stress isn't always bad. Mm-hmm. And then what you're actually doing in practice can transfer to competition. Because I will tell you, like, if you're not a good athlete, I can't magically make you a good athlete. Like, you've got to have the physicality, but most people are not meeting their physicality potential. Yeah. And so there's a couple things that we'll do. One of them is like pain exposure, which I realize sounds actually very scary the way I just
where's this going?
Yeah. But it's really like, I guess I should say it like this. It's like intervals where the goal isn't the pace. It's like staying engaged. Mm-hmm. So, oh my gosh, I have discomfort, but guess what? I made it. Guess what? I can still function. And then there's things that we talk about, like, not believing every thought that pops up, like the shoulds. Should I back off? Should I hold this pace? Should I push harder? Did I go out too fast kind of thing? And it's like, don't assign meaning to the extra tension that you have. It's just tension because you want to do well, and just rehearsing the fatigue, the uncertainty, that you're teaching your brain like, okay, this isn't dangerous. And then over time, ultimately what happens is you're still having symptoms, but you're not panicking as early. And then the body can actually do what you know how to do. And that's key for a lot of people. Like, you think that would be just so automatic, but the brain just flips modes.
Yeah. So kind of interesting. You said you're not a big believer in the positive mantras and the positive sayings and all that. Kind of flipping that around, what are some of the things that we as triathletes tell ourselves that lead us down those rabbit holes, that take us down in our performance, that prevent us from realizing that potential that you were just talking about?
Yeah, gosh. So triathletes, runners, they think they're being smart, and they think they're being disciplined with their self-talk. But in actuality, they are rehearsing fear most of the time, because the phrases that they will say don't actually sound negative. They sound like they're being responsible, like they're preparing for everything. So they'll say things like, well, I've never done this distance before, and that makes me, smart because I'm going to, respect the distance. And I'm like, okay, except what your brain treats a new distance as we've never done it, so we can't do it. And, our fitness isn't there because we've never done this before, so I don't know if we're sure. Or they'll say something like, don't go out too fast, which, is like good advice. You're right. You want to control your pacing and you don't want to blow up. But what happens when you say that is the brain always holds on to like the last word. So you're actually focusing on like under commitment and that you can't go out fast, and you end up like basically having so much in the reserve when you're done. Or they'll say like, well, what if I bonk? And I'm like, okay, so you're literally deciding it's already going to happen. You're deciding to hold back before there's any real problem. You're creating a problem and you have not even done anything yet. Or my favorite is like, pick a body part. My knee always acts up around mile 18. My shoulder always bothers me before I'm done with the swim, or something like that. And so now when you get to mile 18, if that's your magic mile for your knee to piss you off, your brain is scanning for confirmation of, it's mile 18, it's coming up, get ready for it. And you're literally expecting it. So, like it's not that it's bad. And most of the time what happens is they're just all future focused. And if you were in the future, you're always going to be anxious. Or they're past based. And that's like, I've got to redeem myself. I have to fix this from last time. And then that means you're going to be frustrated and you're going to be protective. And again, athletes think they're preparing, and what they're really like basically teaching their brain is like pump the brakes, right? So I don't want anybody to do fake positivity and stuff like that. I want them to be very neutral, because that literally keeps your brain engaged without catastrophizing. So I want you to plan for certain things so it doesn't like catch you off guard and doesn't, surprise you and, you derail. But I want you to think like productivity versus positivity. Because I don't want you to be like, I'm going to win this swim. But maybe something like, I'm going to maintain my pace. I am going to control my breathing. I'm going to breathe on both sides. Like, give your brain instructions. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, what do I want to happen? But unfortunately, most people will go, but what could go wrong? And they're literally concentrating on like what they're trying to avoid instead of what is it that you want to happen? And people resist that because they're like, but what if it doesn't? I'm like, we're not tweeting it out, folks. You're just saying what you want to happen to you. And you didn't say you'd win it. You're just like, what? Like, I want to be calmer. I want to be in more control on the bike. I want to remember to eat when my freaking watch beeps. You know?
Yeah. So
that's productive.
So out on the course, we see some fantastic signs. A lot of them are very encouraging, obviously, and
God, I love race signs, man. Good race
hilarious.
Signs are the best.
Some have power up buttons, which are magical. But a lot of them do have some of those kind of positive affirmations and that sort of thing. But why doesn't positive affirmation, positive thinking, why doesn't that work like we think it should, or even does? Say we're 18 miles into an Ironman and maybe what's worked before is no longer working. Why is that?
Because your brain is flipping tired and your brain will not tolerate lies. You're smart. So it's like you think when you're exhausted, your brain is actually running on efficiency because you've literally used up everything in the tank.
Yeah.
And so if you tell yourself something it doesn't believe, it's like, I don't know, you're just like, I've got this. Your brain's like, the fuck you do. And so then it's like, people go, but I was positive. Mm-hmm. And in reality, I'll go back to like the brain just kind of needs instruction, not inspiration. And you don't want to say something like, don't slow down. And then again, you're just like concentrating on the last part, but like, I can maintain this. I trained for this. I can trust my pace or something like that. Like, obviously I give really specific ones when I'm working with someone because I know more about them, but I just think self-talk works best when it's believable and not positive, because you're just not going to repeat something that you don't believe. So maybe it's something like, hold this cadence. Maybe it's like, let my shoulders release, relax my shoulders, because we believe whatever we repeatedly say and we repeat what feels true. And so I just think productive self-talk will always beat positive thinking every time, especially late in a race, because your brain knows you're full of crap.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good. So so it's kind of like we see the signs at mile 10 that say you're almost there, and it's like, no, I'm not.
Oh God! Or when someone yells it out, they're like, "You're almost." I'm like, I hate your ass.
And you look fantastic, and you're like, no, I don't. Like, I can't even see myself, but I know I look horrible. But
I like to shout out though. I love your race kit, or I love your matching socks, because then it's like I'm saying something different. I'm getting their attention off their pain for a second, and they're like, well, I did plan to match my socks with my race kit. Thanks for noticing. I'm not going to say, hey, that salt stain, that looks great on you. No. But I do love the fact that you got pink shoes and a pink kit, girl.
That is awesome. One thing that you mentioned early on, you mentioned PRing in your first race, and all the races that come after. A lot of times fear can be a great motivator. And I absolutely remember that training for my first Ironman back when I was 29. Fear was a great motivator, and I made a lot of mistakes because of that, both with just time management and like my wife would agree with that one. I wish I could go back and tell 29-year-old me to just chill out a little bit. But why is it that sometimes the beginners have an easier time than, like you mentioned, you're 8 Ironman in, I'm 10 Ironman in, and sometimes it's almost that burden of knowledge. Or the lack thereof. So what would you say? Why is it sometimes that the veterans have a harder time than the newbies?
Okay, this is so classic, and it's such a simple answer. You're gonna be like, I already knew that, but people like, how when you're talking to someone and like they can't see their own problem, or it's like someone that's in a bad relationship and they can't see that the person they're with is a total douchebag, and you're like, how are you missing the red flags here? And it's because beginners have this like secret advantage of they don't have any mental baggage. They have nothing to compare it to. What a glorious thing to not know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know how bad it's going to hurt. And experienced triathletes oh, they struggle more mentally because they know too much. Mm-hmm. They have history. They've got past races. They've got injuries. They got bad days. They've got comparisons. They got expectations, baby. And all that starts showing up mid-run because I don't have anything else to think about. And I haven't preloaded what my thoughts should be because that's so key. And people are like, I don't know what I'm going to feel like. I don't know what I want to think about. And I'm like, well, you may not use it, but you better come up with a game plan that's like, hey, when this happens, I'm going to focus on this. When I get really distracted my stomach really starts turning, here's the game I'm going to play with myself. Here's what I'm going to say to myself. You better have a plan because if we leave it to chance, we're going to base it on what kind of mood we're in. Mm-hmm. And when things are hurting, in endurance sport, it's a lot different than a soccer player and a tennis player or something like that. So you got to be ready. And I think the, experienced runners will struggle more just because the expectations get louder. Mm-hmm. And my tip for that, I guess I'll say, is you got to be curious. Because beginners are curious. They're like, let me see what I can do. Yeah. Let me see what this is like. Let me sign up for another one. I ran a 5K, so I can totally run a marathon. And they're all like pumped. And yes, you can. That is totally true. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want to achieve. But I think experienced runners are constantly, and triathletes, just constantly judging themselves. Like I said the word should earlier, I should be faster by now. I should be progressing more. I should feel better. My split should be lower. I should negative split this. And so then the brain shifts from doing to constant evaluation. And when I'm grading myself mid-race, I don't have enough left to go into my performance. I'm literally using up brain space to calculate why I suck because I'm trying to get better. And if you're a new or person, then there is no better because you don't know any different. Mm-hmm. So like comparison just creeps in and you're looking at your past self. And I loved what you said earlier about like, PR should retire. It's like you have it for so long. You're like, oh my God, how many people are in my age group? Oh my God, what was the number on her calf? Oh my God, she just passed me. Wait a minute. How come she didn't have to write her number? Did she take her number off? How old is she? You're looking at your Garmin stats. I don't know. And then all your attention leaks outward. And the ability to perform is all about attentional control. Because you've heard the phrase, the hay is in the barn, right? At some point, you've already done the workouts, it's fine. But how you access your ability to tap into that, pain train on race day is about what you're focused on. And if I know that as an experienced, endurance athlete, I'm protective. Well, I've had a bad race. Well, your brain is always going to start playing defense. And then discomfort gets labeled as danger. Instead of like pushing through discomfort, you start negotiating with it. And so really experienced racers are not weaker. They're just thinking too much instead of executing. And ultimately the fix then is learning how to run without narrating every freaking sensation that you're having because pain is just data. Pain is just information and not like, oh my God, it deserves attention.
Yeah. So I started off the podcast with what I refer to as the four horsemen of long course racing. It's pacing, hydration, nutrition, and cooling. But I'm thinking now that maybe a fifth horseman needs to be included of these mental skills to deal with all of these. So I know Maximize the Mind offers, you have online courses, you do group sessions, you offer one-on-one sessions. What is it like to work with you and how can athletes connect with Maximize the Mind?
Yeah. And I love your Horsemen. I've seen you post about them and I think they're so good. I just want to say to anybody listening, everybody thinks it's all about the physical training and to really survive long distance racing, you cannot ignore the hydration. You cannot ignore the nutrition. You cannot ignore all the components that you mentioned. And that is not us being like, textbook coaches. That's just legit. Yeah. And it's just part of it because it's also about recovery. Everyone's like, oh my God, I feel guilty if I, take time off. And it's like, ooh, but if you don't take time off, now that, niggle became a fracture and now you're not racing for 4 months. So like, be smart and not stubborn. And I seem to find a lot of stubborn people in this sport. But anyway, maximizethemind.com. is our website, and it's really thorough. I took a lot of pride in having a crap ton of FAQ on there. So if you're ever like, I am curious, but I want to be a lurker, I don't really want to reach out yet, I want to see what they're all about and what their services are, go check out maximizethemind.com, because we have such an extensive website on just, different things we help people with, different FAQs. The majority of our practice is one-on-one sessions. We have 4 mental performance coaches that work with us. They all work with different sports and, have different age experience and things like that. So email me. I answer emails all day long, Ashley@maximizethemind.com. I'm never afraid to give that out. I do podcasts all the time and people are like, are you sure you want someone to know that? And I go, I'm in the mission of helping people. Yeah. You can't help people if they don't know how to contact you. Yeah. And ask me a question. I mean, I'm not in the business of giving everything away for free. Right. I am not running a charity, but I will help you and figure out, the best place for you. We have camps that we do. We have workshops, and we also have courses, because I will tell you, one-on-one sessions are not in the budget for everyone. Yeah. And they're also not, in people's time. Like, people are so busy, and triathlon takes a lot of time to train. So we think that is really helpful for a lot of people. And I just want to be clear, because everyone always thinks if it's like this online course or something, that it must be like fluff. It's literally the same thing we teach people in one-on-one sessions. It's just in a format that we're answering a question that may not be quite as personalized for you, but I've been doing this for 2 decades. And we see the same patterns over and over again. We really do see a lot of the same stuff. So when I created the courses, I put in there things that are good for 98% of the people that come into our office. And, I just think that is important for people to know, because we just have misconceptions. And the same thing is true with, do I need to be in your office? Do I need to live in Houston? No, we see people in our office, but today, every single client I saw was a FaceTime. Yesterday, I had 3 FaceTimes and 4 in office. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm the same person. It's just like this. I don't change because a camera goes on. People always want to know, are you really like that in real life? Do you have that much energy? And I'm like, I kind of am geeky about what I do. Yes, this is really me. So yeah, that's how you can find us. Maximize the Mind.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, your expertise. This is golden stuff. Again, I highly value this, but I know I can't speak to it like you can. So thank you for your time, sharing your expertise, and I would absolutely encourage everyone to at least check out the website. Like I said, there's a lot of information on there. Just those online courses, the FAQs. I've looked at them, I've read them. It's good stuff. It's applicable stuff that we can use to improve. And so my promise for the podcast is every episode will have actionable insights to use in the next training session or the next race. And I feel like this whole last hour has just been a wealth of that. So thank you very much for that, and look forward to seeing you out on the race course again.
Yeah, good deal, man.
Thanks for tuning into Tribe Triathlon, where athletes come together to train smarter, race stronger, and thrive together. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your training partners. Join the Tribe Facebook group to connect with community, and check out tribetriathlon.net to learn more about Tribe coaching. Until then, stay focused, stay consistent, and keep building the Tribe.